Is it the greatest technological opportunity that the church has had in decades? Or is it a way to drive us farther apart from each other? It's the Internet, and today on Austin Faith Dialogue, we talk about religion and the Internet. Stay with us for today's show.
Austin Faith Dialogue, at the crossroads of religion and life. A series highlighting the cultural and social interactions between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KXAN. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
We're glad you've joined us for Austin Faith Dialogue today. We're going to have an exciting conversation. I'm Sandy Wilder, your host, and today I have with me Bob Larson, who's president of Faith Park here in Austin, and David Adkins, who is pastor of First United Methodist Church in Round Rock. Good to have you both. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting us.
Since we're talking about the Internet, let's first of all describe Faith Park, and that will help, I think, people get an idea of what the Internet is already doing with churches. Tell us what Faith Park is.
Sandy, Faith Park is a marketing, advertising, and public relations network for the church community in the Austin metro area. And we've really, for the last year and a half, have specialized in developing a total internet site, for all the churches, all 425 churches in the Austin metro area. And we have each church listed on the internet at Faith Park by name, by denomination, by zip code, and their own internet address.
So it's a way then of collecting information about a lot of churches and putting it in one place where people can find it, right?
Absolutely, and that's the unique thing about the internet. You can, at a real low cost, you can have all these churches on the internet at one location for anyone to find.
Makes a lot of sense. And now you're here, David, because you're one of your churches, one of the users of this service. And what exactly is First United Methodist Church doing then on Faith Park?
Well, we originally developed a website just as a congregational member communication tool. Bob came to us with this idea for Faith Park, and we kind of jumped on that, thinking that not only would we be one of the first participating, but it'd give us an opportunity to maybe increase our communications possibilities as well as even cut down some costs. We print a newsletter every other week. The mailing costs being what they are, we thought this might be an opportunity for folks to get information from the church offices without us having to mail anything. And we've had, probably in the range of 70 people who have opted to use the internet address rather than receive newsletter through the mail. So we post our newsletter on the Faith Park address when it's published every other week.
So already making a difference in the way you do ministry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not everybody, of course, is going into this kind of work. I wonder what in your background, Bob, led you to develop Faith Park? What are your particular expertise and your interests?
Well, it really started 3 years ago. I have another company called Christian Publications, and 3 years ago we started printing colored newsletters, bulletins, and reports for churches in the Austin metro area. And one day I was meeting with a church pastor, and he was talking about the advantages of the internet. Mm-hmm. And like David, he said, Bob, in the near future, we're going to be able to put our newsletter over the internet instead of printing it and folding it and labeling it and mailing it to the members. They can just pull it up and receive it over the internet 24 hours a day. If they want to print it out, they can print it out at home and have it there. And it doesn't cost the church anything. And I thought, man, as a printer for the church community, I thought, if this really works, if this internet thing really goes over, I'll be out of business in the printing business, and everybody will be receiving their information over the internet. That's when I started looking into it and discovered that it was a great marketing opportunity for the church community.
Isn't it great service too, I think. Now, we're going to try an experiment here. We've never done this kind of hookup on Austin Faith Dialogue, but we're going to see if we can take a look at the Faith Park site and have you then talk us through what people would be seeing as they come to your site on the internet. So let's see if we can get it up here on the screen, and then for about a minute or so you can talk us. Here we go. Okay, talk us through what we're seeing.
That's our home page, and of course the cornerstone of the home page is the church information directory. Then we have 9 other areas on the internet. There's a special events area, so churches that have special events, anyone can click on that particular area, and they can see all the special events that are happening within the church community. There's another area called community outreach. This is the children's area for child development centers within the church community. Here's a private church school area. And now they're clicking on preschool.
Right.
And it'll list the church preschools in the area. And so someone looking for a preschool for their child can click on there and find the churches, and then find out information on those preschools with those particular churches. We're also going to be adding a church youth chat room that you see up there listed now, which will be monitored either by a youth pastor or a youth director. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You bet.
I look forward to exploring that myself later on. Let's talk about what's on Faith Park then in terms of an end user. Describe the demographics of your congregation and why the particular people in First United Methodist might be interested in this form of communication.
Well, being in Round Rock, this close to Austin, means that a lot of my congregational members are well into the technology of the computer. Many of my parishioners work at some of the leading technology providers in the area, so they're excited about being able to use their computers or the technology they work with every day in their church relationship. They're familiar with it, so it's just one other tool that we can use to help communicate with them. One of the things that I see that I think is exciting for them is they can draw information when they want it. Just like you might call the church office for a particular bit of information, these folks can call up the church web page. They can find out particular events that are happening at present. They can gain information about, we've even got information about staff posted on the website. In fact, we've really got more information on our website than we do in printed form in new member handouts or visitors handouts. So folks can pull that information up at their leisure.
And you say people often work in the technology industry. I wonder then if that means that the primary persons using your site are the younger people in your congregation or younger potential members.
The first families that I had sign up specifically to receive the newsletter over the internet were over 65 years old, which was a surprise to me.
Right.
Most of them, however, were retirees from some of the large computer-related organizations in the Austin area, and were already familiar with the technology and were excited about this being a new option for the church to use. It was just kind of a surprise to me. I thought it would be some of the X generation or some of the younger boomers, but it wasn't. It was some of our older members in the congregation.
I wonder then if that becomes a way to minister to folks for whom getting out of the house might be difficult.
Very well might be. This is something that puts the church in connection with folks while they're in their home. And really, rather than, I think, separating us from folks, it really helps to put the church in the house, right where the computer is. And those folks can draw up information at any time. They can email the office. The number of emails I have received through the church page have increased dramatically, and I get lots of information from my congregational members through email.
A wonderful system.
Through the church page.
Right, right. I wonder, Bob, if there's something particular about Austin, well, the Central Texas area, If there's something in particular about this area of the country that makes us particularly interested in something like Faith Park, or whether, as far as you know, folks across the country are trying to do this, pull church information together, make it easier for people.
I feel, I mean, what we've seen so far on the internet, we're the only ones that have really put the church community to get together within a community on the internet. You'll find at the present time there are over 36,000 churches on the internet, individually on the internet, but they're very difficult to find. And so if someone new is moving into the Austin area, it's easy for them to come to Faith Park and look at every church within the area to see by denomination or by individual name of the church or by zip code where they'd like to go or what church they'd like to take a look at.
Yellow pages of sort, right?
Right, kind of a yellow pages of the church community on the internet.
And as you look at your service from a business person's standpoint, do you think it's particularly the Austin area that makes Faith Park successful, since we're touted as such a high-tech area?
Well, you know, the internet has spread so much across not only the United States but the world. Other major cities have boomed in the internet usage also, but yes, Austin, there's a higher percentage of people actually using the internet in the Austin area as compared to Houston or Dallas or some other cities because of the technology and the computer companies located here.
Right, right. And my understanding is that Faith Park has ambitious plans, but at this point you're small and growing, right?
We've really been developing the site for the last year and a half. And just in January, we really started marketing the site to the total church community. And we now have, of the 425 churches in the Austin metro area, we have 7 online that have their own sites on Faith Park, and we have 3 more going online with us next week. So our hopes are that within the next 12 months, we'll have over 100 churches on Faith Park, on the Faith Park internet site.
And certainly plenty of opportunity in this part of the country.
Absolutely.
What changes have you noticed in your ministry, David, as a result of being up and running electronically?
Well, I don't think the changes are as obvious as you might think when you first start a new venture like this. This is the very first time really we've tried to put something like this together. I think the potential for change in the life of the church is tremendous. If we were a business organization selling inner tubes, we'd be the first on the internet. You know, the church, unfortunately, a lot of times is the last organization to take technological leaps into the future. We're just getting started with this. I'm just starting to see folks respond with excitement that they're able to get information when they want it. I'm hoping to someday turn this around, which means I can get information to people when I want them to have information. When the church needs to contact its members, or maybe even contact the community in some form or fashion. This is an electronic connection place that the church ought to be involved in, just like every other business organization is trying to be involved in.
And I know it helps to have you enthusiastic about this too, to get it kicked off.
Sure.
We'll stop just for a minute here and come back to our conversation. Now we've got some announcements about events coming up. Stay with us. We're glad you're with us on Austin Faith Dialogue today as we have a conversation about religion and the internet with Bob Larson of Faith Park and David Adkins of First United Methodist Church in Round Rock. We've talked a little bit about the technological aspect of getting up and running, and we may come back to that. But I'd like to talk now some about some issues related to ministry and the internet. You've been in business for a little while now. I wonder if there's anything you would have done differently now with several months or years of experience in helping churches get up on the internet. What have you learned about how to do this kind of business with churches?
The difficult part that we've found so far in dealing with the church community is that we contact or send literature out or meet with the pastor of the church, and then it goes from the pastor to typically to a committee. And the committee then either makes the decision or then takes it from there to council, and then maybe goes back from council back to the pastor where the decision is made. And so it's a long, and that's part of the reason that we only have 7 churches online so far. I think there's a tremendous number of more churches out there that want to become a part of it in the very near future. But it's a longer process. It's not just dealing with one person. It's dealing with the total church to make the decision on whether to go online or not, and what to put once they get online or have made that decision, what actually to put on the internet.
Committees. And of course some churches, congregations, faith groups, whatever, would say, oh no, we can do it ourselves. You would say to them what in answer to that?
Well, yes, they can. And there are computer programs that make it easier now for anyone or a church to put their information online. The difficult part is that the internet uses a special language called hypertext markup language. And so to create the home page, to make it unique, it takes someone with some expertise in order to use that language to convert the words and text and graphics that the church wants to put online to actually get it on so people can see it and read it and understand it on the internet.
And obviously then with you, that's provided.
It's provided, and then we can do it, and we're able to do it because we've created a total site for the total church community. We've lowered our costs down, and we're able to provide the service to the church community at a much lower cost than if they went out and hired a private firm to do their one particular church. So it's we have a low-cost marketing plan for the church community.
It does make a lot of sense. As a user then of this kind of service, what would you say, David, to some of your colleagues who might be a little hesitant about getting their toe in the internet water?
Preachers are notoriously hard-headed. I was kind of anxious at first thinking about spending any funds because in all our settings, funds are rather precious. I had a volunteer in the church who volunteered to put a website together and did that. The benefit of Faith Park is that it's a site where all of us together can go, and anyone can find information about cross-denominational lines, even across faith lines, really. I think Bob's intention is to provide just about anybody an option on Faith Park. It's a good business decision, but it's also a good faith-based decision as well. If I was going to give advice to anybody, it'd be don't wait. This is going to be something that is going to affect our culture from now on. The internet is going to be something that we're going to live with. It's going to be an integral part of our lives, and it would just seem a shame for the church not to take advantage of that. And I'm talking about the Church Universal as well as a local congregation. This can be a place that is just as important as the Postal Service, if not more so in the not too distant future.
Right.
There were churches 100 years ago that very much hesitated sending out newsletters. We crossed that barrier 100 years ago. 75 years ago, a lot of churches didn't want to print bulletins on Sunday morning. We crossed that barrier. This is just not another technological barrier, and those that cross that barrier will find it exciting, I think. And those that don't will miss the start of this race.
And I like your notion of crossing faith lines, crossing denominational lines. Certainly we need to move toward that.
Yeah, Bob has put me in with Baptist and Episcopals and just all those folks. We're just all there together on Faith Park, and that's kind of exciting because I've also used it to find information about other congregations. I'm the pastor of a United Methodist Church, but I've already drawn up some of the other congregational websites that are on Faith Park to see what they're doing in ministry, to see how they approach ministry. It's been informative to me, so it's been a help just in my ministry deciding how I'm going to help lead the congregation I serve.
Mm-hmm. Cooperation is a good kind of witness for those of us who are people of faith.
Sure.
Now, the site, actually, the Faith Park site at this point includes special events, and you're moving toward a youth area,
Right.
and you've got schools. What other kinds of things that the faith community does do you see putting up on the site eventually?
Well, there's a couple other areas that we have. One is called sports and recreation. And when you mentioned to David about other faiths being on there or other denominations besides his, sports and recreation, well, we're going to list all the churches that have like a softball team or bowling team. And if anyone wants to join any of those, or maybe the churches then can start playing each other interdenominationally. And so that's one particular area that anyone could get involved with, would be sports and recreation. We also have a seniors area on the site that'll list seniors activities at different churches. Some churches have all different types of sewing for women or all different types of programs for seniors. So that's another area that we have already up and running on the Faith Park site. I did mention the community outreach and the special events, the child care, the youth. I think that there's 9 altogether, along with the church information directory, which is really the cornerstone, which you can go from there to each individual church internet site.
So it becomes like a community center.
Correct.
But that leads me also to wonder, and perhaps the two of you can give your opinions on this. As we begin to build community on the internet, a new kind of community, there are folks who say, but there are people who are left out. Perhaps people of more modest economic means, perhaps people of different racial or ethnic groups, but not everybody's part of this community yet. How might Faith Park or a local church begin to cross some of those kind of boundaries using the internet, being present electronically? I wonder if you have some thoughts about that.
I just respond to it and say, with any new technology, it's going to take time for this to reach a much broader base in the community. 10 years ago, I could count on one hand the number of members in the local congregation who had computers in their home. And certainly 3 years ago, the internet was not something that most of us knew anything about at all. Who can say then, cross-culturally, demographically in the community, what the internet is going, or how the internet is going to impact our culture in 3 years from now? It may very well be that in the not too distant future, even before the turn of the century, that cable and television and the internet will be so intertwined that this will reach a much broader base of my congregation, other congregations, and spread this socioeconomic level out to a much broader playing field. Television, when it first came out, wasn't in very many households. Now it's pretty much in every household. And I think this will get there in the not too distant future.
And you might speak from, say, a business perspective.
Well, President Clinton did announce that there would be computers in all the schoolrooms, and that is really happening here in the Austin area. I know many of the grade schools and middle schools have computers in many of the classrooms. community-wise, the Austin community itself has like 16 free locations where anyone can go and surf on the internet. One of the places is all the libraries in Austin have free internet access to anyone that wants to use it. So it is becoming, and like David said, what's going to happen in the near future is that we're going to be actually using the internet with our television set. There's now a new product out called WebNet, and it's very inexpensive, where you have a keyboard sitting on a remote control basis. You're sitting in your living room, and you can either watch television or you can switch it over to the internet and watch and maneuver on the internet on your TV screen. So it's an exciting area that's really booming at this point in time.
Beginning of a revolution.
Yeah, it sure is.
And some folks might also say, let's try one last question here, might also say that technology keeps us apart. And the function of faith is to bring us together and to bring us closer to God. How might this internet connection opportunity be used to move us closer toward each other?
Well, if you're looking for a theological answer, I don't know if you can find
we
it
need one.
biblically. I just have to look back on previous experiences and say that I am able, with 2,400 members, to do a much better job communicating and touching the lives of people using microphones, using telephones. This program is on television, a technological advance that changed our culture. I think we're trying to use it in order to get closer together. I think the internet is just another tool that we can use to get closer together. Yes, it can drive us apart, but if we'll use it specifically to try to draw ourselves closer together, then it's just a way for folks to get in each other's homes and share each other's lives and share information. It's just another way to talk to one another.
So don't be
just
afraid.
another one. Yeah, it'd be great.
Right. Short thoughts on that,
It's the
perhaps?
information age, and churches have so much information to give out, and what easier, more low-cost, better way to give it out to the community, to their members, to the unchurched, to new people moving into the Austin area than over the internet.
Okay.
We've argued whether or not Jesus would use television to preach if he were to appear now. Now the question is, would he use the internet to preach the good news? So.
And Jesus seemed to be ahead of his time even then, probably now too. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing all of you next week on Austin Faith Dialogue. We're glad you've been here. Thank you for joining us.